Hi, I'm Amber Cook. Welcome to my podcast, The Dragonfly Connection. Join me every Wednesday for open, honest, inspiring, and healing conversations with people who face their own health and life challenges, worked through them, and now are on a mission to help you live a healthier, more fulfilling life. My hope is that each episode leaves you more empowered and inspired, no matter where you are on your life and healing journey. Before giving you a little teaser of what's to come in this episode today with my guest, Kimberly Spencer, I wanted to fill you in on some temporary changes to the podcast. If you're in my Facebook group, The Dragonfly Connection, you already know what's up. But for those of you that haven't joined yet, or maybe you've forgotten, this is your reminder. Starting now until the beginning of September, I will only be releasing new episodes every other week instead of weekly, giving you longer to listen and me longer to edit and produce. It's summertime, friends, officially, I think. And my main focus this summer is enjoying time with my daughter and continuing to focus on my mental health. There's a ton of sadness going on in the world right now, and I plan on countering it with lots of joy. And I hope you're able to do the same thing this summer. I also really feel the need to protect my energy right now, and I don't want to go into the fall feeling burnt out. I'd love to know what you have going on this summer. How are you taking care of yourself and protecting your energy? Join me and other fans and podcast guests in the Dragonfly Connection community and let us know. And if you're needing more support on your healing journey, it's a great resource to be a part of. The link to join is in the show notes. And speaking of the show notes, let's get on with it. Kimberly Spencer is an award-winning high-performance trauma-informed coach and trainer, Amazon bestseller, TEDx speaker, and the founder of crownyourself.com. From her entrepreneurial beginnings at 5, selling bags of glitter water to her neighbors, and we will talk about that in this episode, to becoming an award-winning screenwriter, certified Pilates instructor, Miss Congeniality, real life, Kimberly is proof that it's better to make your own mold than to conform to someone else's. And we talk a lot about that in this episode, along with her own healing journey, the mother wound, and the father wound. Drama, triangles, and so much more good stuff to help you on your life and healing journey. Kimberly's work has been featured on Netflix, the CW, ESPN, Chicken Soup for the Soul, NPR, Thrive Global, CNBC, and Forbes. And I am so honored to have her part of the Dragonfly Connection now. I should also mention that something weird happened with my mic during this recording because it's definitely a little off, but I don't think it'll ruin your experience. If anything, it might make it more memorable. I know that you can't see me, but I'm totally crossing my fingers. And please, if you're thinking about dinging my reviews because of it, please don't. Instead, I'd love for you to share with your friends and leave a review about the wonderful content rather than my mic error. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for all of your support. Enjoy. This episode is sponsored by healingways.com. Find a holistic wellness professional and resources to help you on your healing journey. That's healing, WAZE.com. Kimberly, thank you for being here. I already know that I've made a new friend, and I think my listeners are going to feel the same way at the end of this conversation. So thank you.
You are so welcome. I am so excited to have met your acquaintance and to have made a new friend as well.
Yes. And we finally got here. Yeah, it's been a journey, but we're here. And you've been out of the country and my time frame didn't work. So where are you right now?
I'm in Los Angeles right now. So we got conveniently stuck in Australia for 2 years. And I say stuck in air quotes because it was a choice. We had the opportunity to fly home, and I turned to my husband and I was like, how long could this last?
Like in 2020?
And we were in March in 2020. We were hanging out. My husband's a voice actor, and so we're at a convention. We were flown down there for this convention with The Walking Dead, which I thought was incredibly ironic with the pandemic breaking out. I was like, this is funny. And my husband and I, we've always had the vision. We've been together for almost 10 years now. And we always had the vision to live abroad, to raise our kids abroad so that they learn from the diversity of culture and experience, not from a textbook. Yeah. And we thought, we're here. It's gorgeous. Pretty much everything in Australia, because of the currency exchange, we get a 20 to 30% off discount. And I said, what if we just stayed? And we just kind of played with the idea for a couple of days. And then I was like, the more I let that idea stay with me, the more I was like, no, we could really do this. Like, this could be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, we were walking and he's like, he's like, I'm 90% there. And I said, as a team, you have to be 100% on board or we will go home. I said, even if you're 99% there, if you have even one shred of doubt, I will not stay. I said, I'm 100%. I think that we can do this. I know my business is in a place to support this. And I know because his industry was completely shifting and he had location-based work typically.
Yeah.
And I said, I know I can support us and I know we can do this and let's go. And he said, but I said, take the time. I said, you have till the end of the day. He went, he took an hour for himself, came back and he was like, yeah, let's do this. And so we've always talked about living in Australia and we just fast tracked our timeline. I had it on my Trello board of goals for 2027. We just sped it up. So that was really the joy. And we got to stay there for 2 years and we were in the good part of Australia, not the part that most of Americans heard about, where I had people messaging me like, are you guys okay? And I was like, we're great. We live 2 blocks away from the beach and like we can walk to the beach every day. And it was beautiful. Yeah. Where we lived, it was not a problem. We were all good. They weren't the ones with all the craziness, but we stayed there for 2 years. Sadly, my dad passed while I was there. And then my aunt and my Nana passed as well.
Oh my gosh.
2 family friends. And within the span of a year, January 2021 to January 2022. And I said, I think we need to go home. I said, I need to support my mom a bit and just be with her. Because it was her husband, her sister, her mom. Like,
oh my gosh, your poor mom.
So we came back here in January and then navigated that moving with 4 children, because we had another one while we were over there, best souvenir ever. And across countries with all the restrictions and like, I was so nervous about the 24-hour testing thing to fly in. And because I was like, we got 4 chances to get it like right, but we also have 4 chances to get it wrong. Right. Unfortunately, we actually all got COVID at the beginning of January. And I couldn't have
got
been
out of the way.
I was, as soon as I got sick, I was like, yes, this is it. We've been preparing for this.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
yeah. So we got our test. So we didn't have to do a 24-hour test because we'd had it. And so we got the confirmation from the doctor there like a week later. And literally had 1 week before we flew out after getting confirmation from the doctor. Like it was very fast. And it was the entirety of staying in Australia was in a trust exercise with the universe to be able to connect and tap into our intuition. And I had told my husband back in November, I said, I have a feeling that in February or like late January, February, something big is going to shift. I said, I don't know if that means we're going to be going home or if that means we're going to be like upgraded here. Like, because we had talked about moving into a different unit, a different space, maybe buying a house. Yeah. So we ended up moving home and it was a great journey, 2 years, just beautiful beaches. And like my son got to experience Australian culture. So that was
nice. Fun. Yeah. So fun. What an adventure. How amazing that you got that opportunity. And now you're back in the States and you said home is LA.
Home is LA. Yep.
Okay. Nice. I just actually got back from LA last week for a little trip to Hollywood and Universal Studios to take my 10-year-old daughter who's obsessed with all that right now.
Oh, Harry Potter world.
Hi, Harry Potter and just, all the movie star stuff she's just really, really into. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. So it was super fun. Great weather. There are definitely some things that I really love about LA. And then there's the driving.
The driving, the traffic, and there's some pieces that I love about LA, like the weather, and then there's some pieces that I don't 100% love. Like I definitely, this is not a place that I intend on staying. I don't feel really inspired here. I feel it's weird, but I feel like LA is like my small town. Not that I'm looking to actually move to a big town. I'm actually looking to move to a smaller town, but something with some space and some land, because I'm like, this is kind of like everyone knows me. They know who I was. They don't know who I'm becoming. And typically, like when you're on that journey of growth and exponential growth, like I think, the past 2 years kind of threw us into some exponential growth.
Yeah.
That the person who you are is not going to be the person who you started out being. And I mean, I can definitely say I'm not the person who I was 2 years ago. And yet, like, I think the environment that you are in reflects that. So I told my husband, I said, it feels like everything is kind of like the Big Bang, like in that movie, The Theory of Everything. He's coming up with a theory and it's like everything is swirling back to its point of origin. So we swirled back to our point of origin to like explode even bigger, which is legitimately what I feel. But we like the spiraling of the past 3 months of moving back home, moving our storage unit, moving the things out of my grandma's house and all that. So like moving 3 times in 3 months is a lot. But being able to move those pieces out and incorporate like what we want and clear out clutter and like make some space and it's coming back to that like dense matter period. And then we're going to just explode into like massive fireballs of awesome impact and energy.
Fireballs of awesome impact and energy. Oh, I love it. Okay. So we, on this conversation today, are going to talk about who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming, and how that's all going to help other people who are going through, similar and different experiences. But I agree with you. Like, when we're up leveling or whatever words you want to use, just totally changing our lives, the environment has to support that. And
it will reflect your identity.
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I want to talk about who you were. I read on your website that your first entrepreneurial venture was at 5 when you were selling bags of glitter water to your neighbors. So I just want to start with that cute little story. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I started out, I sold so many things. I sold like bags of glitter water, it is what it is. It's a plastic bag with water in it with glitter in the water. Like you can't drink it, but I thought it was a hot day in LA. How nice would it be to like refresh yourself with sparkles? And we sold it split testing price points for 5 cents or $50. No one purchased for the 50, so we saw which one sold, much to my chagrin. And I grew up on a street with a lot of kids and all ended up starting their own businesses. So
that's cool.
There was always that entrepreneurial like vibe. Like I did that, and I also would like corral the kids in the community together to put on backyard productions, because if there's one thing that you can make money from, it is putting on a play or a dance or a recital with kids, because the parents will always buy a ticket. Like I'm going to this event for my son, and it's a big dance recital. I'm like, okay, so I'm buying all the costumes, the tickets, and I've been paying for the dance classes. I'm like, this is a serious, like, solid business model.
Right. My daughter's into dance, and I think that every year.
Yep.
The same exact thing. I'm like, damn, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, solid business model. And so I was doing that, but I was blessed to grow up in a household with 2 entrepreneur parents who were the black sheeps of their family, in essence, because my mom's side of the family was very formal education, collegiate education. And while she got her master's, she was the first one to really jump into starting her own business. It was really fun cleaning out my grandma's house. I found her first little note of like, this is my note on my new stationery. I'm starting my new business.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was so cool. I said, we're totally going to frame that, because then my dad started his tree business, and I watched over the course of 30 years, my dad and mom not being perfect, and my dad with a serious crippling debility of what you would an Achilles heel, which was alcohol, and yet still be able to build a multi-million-dollar business in the span of 30 years. And I said, wow, if they could do that in 30 with serious challenges of leadership with my dad and his alcoholism and addiction, then what could I do in 10?
Yeah,
and that was the mentality that I really, without those crutches, or and also without the guilt and shame and struggles that my dad was going through. But fortunately, I was able to have a lot of compassion because I realized that in the growth stage of my parents' business, which mine is very similarly where theirs was when they were growing as well, when I was my son's age, the growth stage, and my dad lost both his parents at the time that I did. And being able to see that and recognize that, like, he had the tool of alcohol. That was the only way that he knew how to cope. And I had a very complex relationship with my father. There was a lot of abuse in every way.
I want to stop you right there.
Yeah.
So I have a question about that. So I always ask my guests what their favorite episode was, just so to like see, like, have you actually listened? Do you know what you're getting yourself into? And you said the mother wound episode, which was one close to my heart because that was a solo one. And those are always like really the hardest for me. It's like just so vulnerable. But you said, I'm going to quote what you said because it's awesome. And this kind of relates to what you were just getting ready to say. You said, because right now, both the father wound, which I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about the father wound. You said both the father wound and the mother wound are being called forth for healing. And sometimes, especially with my father wound being so apparent early on, it wasn't until years later that I recognized the healing still needed from my mother wound. We're going to talk about that right now. Before we talk about how you help others shift their mindsets, tell me kind of the short version of just what you were getting ready to talk about, like this story about your dad and how it led you to where you are now, helping other people with their wounds.
Yeah. So my dad was a very amazing, generous man when he was sober, which unfortunately was 18% of the time.
Okay.
My dad could get addicted to anything. He literally got addicted to eating apples, like could get addicted to anything.
You sound like you're talking about my dad, by the way. So I am totally relating to this. Yeah.
Yeah. And alcohol was the big one that I was like, I don't care if you smoke pot. Opioids I had a problem with and eventually had to get him out of the psych ward for because he was decreasing his opioids without medical surveillance and was having suicidal ideations and was put in the psych ward back in 2019, also processing the loss of his brother. So like there was a lot of loss, grief, guilt, shame that my father was processing that he never really healed. And I mean, the grief and guilt that can come from hurting your child, I wouldn't wish that on any parent. And for me, I have such compassion for him now because I know that he was abused as a child and his mother was abused as a child. And so there's a reason why it's called a cycle.
Yeah.
But the thing is with both the father wound and the mother wound, the father wound, when it's an abuser, is very apparent. Like we know, oh, we could label it the bad guy, but I don't like to think in that drama triangle. Are you familiar with the term, the drama triangle?
No.
I forget
about that.
Oh my gosh. The psychologist who came up with this, he developed it back in 1969 and I am blanking on his name, but it is called the drama triangle, where there is, when in whatever role you're in, it's, you're stuck in drama. So there's the victim, which everything happens to them. It's not their fault. They're the one who's hurt. They're the one who has had things done to them. There's the villain, who's the abuser. And I've noticed this, especially with high achievers, we can be particularly good at putting ourselves in the villain role of being the one who so doesn't want to be the victim that we'll be the villain of our own life and take on not only all the responsibility that it's all our fault, so we won't allow them their own learning journey. As I told one of my clients who was struggling still with seeing his ex-wife after their divorce, just still not leaning into her purpose and like loving her life. And I was like, well, you can take 100% of your responsibility, but if she's still blaming you 10 years down later, those last 10 years are kind of on her. Like she's got to take ownership for that time. But he was putting himself in the villain role. Like, oh, it's my fault that she's there. It's my fault for divorcing her and all of that experience. And that's where we put ourselves in the villain role. And then there's the hero role. And that was a role that I regularly jumped into with my father, of racing him to the hospital to save him and, getting him out of the psych ward and putting him into rehab. And like I would strap on my hero cape and all right, Kimmy to save the day. And that was the one role that I chose not to lean into in the last 6 weeks of his life. I was pregnant in Australia. And I knew that by making that choice, and I'd had a gut instinct when I said goodbye to my parents, because they had come on over to Australia to visit us, that right before everything shut down. And I had a feeling that it would be the last time that I would hug my dad. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to go back. And it was funny. One of my cousins actually said, if you get stuck there, you won't be able to go back for a funeral. I said, yeah, I understand that. And when my dad got sick, I just kind of had a gut instinct that if he went to this one specific hospital, he wasn't coming out. And he ended up going to that hospital and didn't come out. That experience was incredibly healing because I was able to grieve, and I was pregnant. So I didn't have any, vices that I could slip into because I was nurturing a growing baby, which I was actually very grateful for. As my son's name is Colton, which means Colton Christopher. It means from the dark town into the Christ light. And
awesome.
So he's my little light. He's amazing. It has the funniest facial expressions, like an old man. But so the thing is that when you're dealing with that drama triangle, to flip it, and this is what I do with my clients, is the victim can become the creator. That once the victim shifts the story from everything's happening to me to everything's happening for me, so how can I use this as a tool for my greatness? How can I use this to serve? The villain can become the challenger, where they're the disruptor. They're the one who gets to disrupt the generational patterns. And that's what I'm here for, like breaking down the patterns of abuse that have happened, and the buck stops with me. And then the hero transforms into the coach. Where no longer is the hero in a codependent relationship with the victim or the villain, where the coach is now empowering the creator and empowering the disruptor to be able to do their disruption and their creation and guide the two, because the two are synergistic. Creation always follows destruction. But that's how you escape the drama triangle. Is it easy? Not always. Like, it's nice in theory, but the practice of it is a day-to-day thing in all our relationships. But recognizing where you are in that drama triangle is very key. And so when you have an abusive relationship where there's an abuser, it's very easy to put, I'm the victim, that's the abuser. Here we are in this little drama triangle. And it's comfortable there. And
it's easy.
It's very easy and it's familiar. It may not feel necessarily easy, but it's familiar. And there's a certain amount of pain that's tolerable that you get accustomed to.
Yes.
So it's very easy to see, that's the person that's the bad guy. And I'm not saying that my dad was the bad guy. Like, he did some bad things. But being able to recognize that identity role is not something that they have to live into for the rest of their lives. The thing that sometimes gets faded into the background is the codependent. The person who was there, who was a part of it, but not an active participant. The person who was there, but didn't stand up. The person who was there, but didn't leave.
Yeah.
And that was really the part that I am still honestly working on healing with my mom, of recognizing and being on that journey of seeing how I've been able to, I forgave my dad. I forgave him years ago, but it wasn't until recently in the past few years that I was like, wow, my mom actually had a pretty heavy impact on me, but she was so muted in the background next to the chaos of my father. That the impact was subtle. It was subterfuge in a way. And so being able to see that, recognize it, and start to heal it is where we're at now, and it's going well.
Good. So that's what I want to ask you about, is your healing then, because you took on this role for, sounds like, a long time as the hero, which can be really, really heavy. And on top of just being on the receiving end of the neglect and abuse, when did things shift for you to get you to this point? Like, what did you do? What was there an aha moment? There's always many usually.
There's many aha moments. I think the big one for me, the biggest one that actually enacted change was, one, I had to start healing myself. So it was when my mom actually chased me up the stairs to stop me from throwing up my food, because I modeled the behavior of my parents, which was escapism and codependency, through bulimia, not through alcohol or addiction. My mom was very skilled at putting her head in the sand and ignoring the problem and like, oh, it just doesn't exist. We're just going to pretend like it's not there. I'm just not going to deal with it. And that was like, for me as an Enneagram 8 challenger, I'm like, there's something wrong with this. There's like, this is, anyone notice this a problem? Like an elephant.
It probably felt really huge and heavy on you.
Yeah. And you know, you get those kind of feelings that it's like, it wasn't intentional gaslighting, but like, am I crazy? Like, am I wrong? Like, is my gut intuition, like, is everything that I'm saying, everything that I feel wrong? And no, it wasn't. But I first had to start healing myself. And bulimia was my expression. It was a physical manifestation of me shoving all my emotions down as a big emotional, gifted child to like highly sensitive child to be able to shove them down and then they would explode. And they explode in the form of controlling what I ate and put in my body.
Yeah.
Once I started on that journey, I removed myself from the environment of my parents and I found Pilates. That changed the game because Pilates started to regulate my nervous system. I didn't know it was doing it then, but because Pilates, yoga, Qigong are all forms of exercise that activate your parasympathetic nervous system because you're doing parasympathetic breathing as you're moving, I got to train my nervous system. So if you've had trauma in your life, it's not necessarily just a mental thing. It's a biological, physiological wiring thing.
Yes.
And so I work with my clients somatically on using breath work, using some Pilates tools from 13 years of teaching to incorporate those alignment, breathing, breath periods to re-regulate the nervous system again, because that is necessary for being able to change your actual physiological identity. Because the quickest way to change your emotional state is to change your physiology. So you can do that through like jumping jacks or like to actually change your emotional state. But if that's for the short term, but for a long-term fix, you have to learn how to regulate your nervous system from that sympathetic fight, flight, freeze response into, which is fine and healthy in certain situations. Like we want to have that like bit of like, ooh, yes, that little bit of like fight. I'm going to get this project done like right before like the deadline. We want to have that little bit of fight if we're like on the soccer field chasing the ball and we're like going to go a little bit faster to just like kick it in the goal. We want that. It's not bad. It's just it's not supposed to be on all the time.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have a regulation and an oscillation back into and a deregulation into the parasympathetic nervous system. And so Pilates taught me from a biological perspective how to regulate my nervous system. And I started to feel calmer, confident, and I was put in a leadership position. And I was surrounding myself with 10 clients a day for 4 years initially when I first started teaching, every day, 5 to 6 days a week, learning different belief systems. So that's why, Amber, I love podcasts like yours and communities that you're building, because exposing yourself to different communities, to different belief systems, to different perspectives is essential to growth. Because what I realized was, oh, that person has the same background as I did, and yet they are happy, joyful, love their life, in an amazing relationship. Like, what did they do right? Like, what do I need to adopt that they have?
Yes.
And so I allowed myself to get curious, to stop being so freaking judgmental about myself specifically and others, and allowed myself to get curious, to start questioning, well, if they believe that, what if I believe that? Like, what do I actually believe? What do I believe about my body? Like, I remember I had one woman, she came to me with a stack of magazine pictures back when, you know,
when we all read magazines instead of scrolled through Instagram and
Pinterest. And she brought me a stack of and she's like, it was her initial lesson. She's like, oh, I want my deltoids to look like this. And I was like looking at her and I was like, you realize that you already do. And she's like, no. Don't you see the tonality here and here? And I was like, you don't even see your own reflection.
Yeah.
And that was when I started to realize, I was like, how much of me am I actually missing in the mirror? And that changed the game from my own perspective. Because when I saw that, I started looking at like, how do I actually want to see myself? Like, do I actually want to be skinny, or what does skinny actually feel like? Because feelings trump thinking every time. So I started to think of, instead of the goals that I want, what would it feel like if what is the feeling that I'm actually chasing? Am I wanting to feel more content? Am I wanting to feel peaceful? Am I wanting to feel whole? Am I wanting to feel happy, joyful, loving, abundant? And what do I want food to feel like? And so I started re-healing and integrating these experiences and banishing the blame that I had for my father, because I had to recognize for 10 years, it wasn't him sticking my finger down my throat. That was me. That was my choice.
Yeah.
I had to take ownership for that. And so that experience of going through bulimia changed me and transformed me. And through teaching Pilates and being in a leadership position, I had to lead from a space of authenticity and transparency, because I wasn't going to teach them or coach them on their nutritional issues. Like, I was like, I'm not the person to ask for that. But I do have a process that will make you feel really good and confident in your body. So I learned about living into your zone of genius, having a process that works, trusting that your own results are a case study enough for transformation. Within a year that I first started teaching, I became the highest booked, highest paid, youngest instructor at the studio that I was freelancing at. And I do think that that's because I was teaching from a completely authentic place. I wasn't saying like, I've always been like this, I'm a fitness freak. Like, I'm like, no, I used to like hate my body, not be able to run a mile, and being able to lead from that place of like, I'm not perfect, I'm perfecting. And I found a process that has helped me do it. Let me teach that process for you.
And that's the whole purpose of this podcast. Is to show people that none of us is perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. And we all have all kinds of wounds and experiences that we've had to overcome and heal from. And that it really helps everyone helps them cope with what they're going through when we get to hear these stories. So thank you for sharing that. How long have you been, I don't know what the terms are, but is it in recovery?
They say in recovery, but I hate that terminology.
I kind of don't like it either.
Falling out with the eating disorder community, because I was like, I disagree with that terminology, because a butterfly does not turn back into a caterpillar. A butterfly is not in recovery from being a caterpillar.
Yes.
They're transformed. They're different. It's a different human. It's a different person. And physiologically, our bodies are magnificent, and they can repair. You can basically have a new cellular body in 15 years, or less. That's if you change your environment, your habits, your identity, your belief systems, your feelings, and the way that you constantly show up. If you're still showing up and you're still in the same environment and you're still feeling all the same negative feelings, then you're going to repeat the cycles. You're going to repeat the cycles and the paradigms of what you grew up with. Yeah. But if you choose to remove yourself from the environment in some way, it can be an emotional removal, because sometimes I know that you can't necessarily like leave your house, but you can close the bedroom door, listen to a podcast, remove yourself from the environment and the programming that's currently disrupting, that's currently plagiarizing who you actually are at your soul.
We're going to talk about that in a second. Yeah. So how long have you been transformed from?
The transformed has been 12 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was when I was on the Miss California pageant. Surprisingly, it's a story for another day, but beauty pageants were a huge piece of my own transformation.
Okay.
Which is weird. People are like, didn't that trigger your eating disorder? I was like, no, it made it better. But it's because I found a group and a community of women who were ambitious, who cared deeply, who wanted to serve the world, who wanted to wear crowns and wear beautiful dresses, who wanted to do amazing things for this world and look freaking good doing it. And I was like, that's who I want to be. It was Miss California 2012, Miss California 2010 pageant. And I was in it, and I was walking out in the swimsuit in front of 4,000 people.
Oh my God.
For the first time in my life. And I felt so freaking amazing. The crowd like roared up. I felt this like goosebumps all over my body. And I stood in front of those judges and I was like, I don't fucking care what you think of me.
Oh, that's so good.
I crowned myself.
Yes. Yeah. And that is
that day. I was like, I don't need your validation. I got my own. Like, and that was when I knew I was free. I was done with that. And from there, that was also what inspired the title of my company for 5-6 years later.
Yes, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, great story. I have nothing against beauty pageants as long as the participants are totally willing and it boosts their confidence and boosts their self-image. I think that's amazing. I definitely aspired stuff like that earlier on in my life. I have nothing against it. And your story is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you just mentioned a few minutes ago before that about the plagiarized programming. And so what do you mean by that?
So we've heard of plagiarism, right?
Yep.
Like we all know plagiarism. It's like you can get kicked out of college for plagiarizing someone's work. It's copying someone else's work. Well, to survive, the universe designed us to where we are biologically wired to copy other people's behaviors for survival. Our subconscious mind doesn't know that that is a good behavior or a bad behavior. It just knows this is what's going to allow me to survive. And so that is why we can buy into belief systems that allow us to survive at the level that we're at. And we will always survive at the level of our present identity. Like that's what our bodies are like a thermostat, not just our bodies, but our identity is like a thermostat. And so if the temperature gets too hot, the thermostat kicks in and turns on the AC. If the temperature is too cold, then the thermostat will turn off the AC so that we stay regulated at that particular temperature. And that's our plagiarized programming. It's keeping us regulated at this particular temperature. We may not like the temperature. We may complain about it, but complaining also gets us validation for being at that temperature, which feeds our ego. So the plagiarized programming, it's buying into the beliefs, behaviors, habits, systems, environmental structure that society, parents, people, teachers, mentors, coaches have taught you. And that's why I encourage my clients, because I am not at all about a codependent coaching model. I am about an independent, autonomous coaching model where I basically tell my clients, I want to be put out of a job for a time until you are ready to up level again. But the ability to change that programming that they're choosing to buy into. So the belief system that I had growing up was that I was broken, damaged, and a victim, and that I would never be enough. And that was the same programming that my father had. That was not necessarily the program that my mother had. My mother was more the not enough, the shame, the guilt, and programming from that space. I thought, well, maybe if I achieved enough, then I would feel worthy. Then I would feel enough. And so maybe if I was skinny enough or pretty enough or talented enough or got enough A's or, did all the enoughness's, then I would be enough. Then my dad would stop drinking. Then life would be great. That's not how it works.
Nope.
So looking at the plagiarized programming, what are those behavior systems that you borrowed or adopted from your family, from your parents, from your brothers, from your sisters, from your cousins, uncles, mentors, teachers, and society? A big one that I've started working on with a lot of clients is the plagiarism from the patriarchy. The generational plagiarized programming of women not being able to make a certain amount of income, or that we need to be in our place, or that we need to tone it down, or not be too girly, and oh dear God, forget being feminine. We have to be this masculine order and build structure like a man.
Yeah, and you can't be both. That's you can't have masculine energy and be really feminine. None of those things are true.
Yeah. All bullshit, plagiarized, programmed beliefs that are generational beliefs. So, we as women, if you have money struggles, it may not just be you. It may be it could be what you learned from your parents. It could be what you've learned and just, your failures and successes that you've had along the way of building, growing careers and whatnot. It could be those stories. It could also be a generational story, because studies and science shows that generational trauma in the DNA is there for about 5 to 7 generations.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's so, that's mind blowing. If more people had this information, it would help us in so many ways. We wouldn't be victims. Hopefully we're not going to fall into the victim. Like, well, it's just my genes, but it'll help us understand. It helps to know that information, what you just said about the generations. It helps you understand it isn't all You are enough already.
Yeah. And the high achiever mentality, it's like they don't want to fall victim of, oh, it's just my genes.
You're right.
So then it's typically like, oh, well, what did I do wrong? And I'm like, well, what if you just had a little compassion and grace and you take 100% ownership for buying into that belief for as long as you did.
Mm-hmm.
And society takes 100% ownership for continuing to perpetuate that belief.
Yes.
And we separate the ownership. You get 100% ownership and they get 100% ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's so that way it's not being a victim of it. It's not like, oh, I'm giving away all of my ownership of that experience. No. Society also needs to take its 100% ownership for perpetuating that belief.
Mm-hmm.
As we, as women specifically, need to take ownership for buying into that belief.
Mm-hmm.
And thus, once we choose to no longer buy into it, we get to A, shift into that creator mode, create our new circumstances, and B, disrupt the frickin' system, and B, step away from being that villain and into the challenger. Challenge the system. And then help our fellow ladies rise.
Move on and forward.
Move on, yeah.
Move up and on. And
curses, done,
exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, and then you also said, this is really interesting to me, we should never put our goals or our identity on a pedestal. What do you mean by that? And why? Why shouldn't we do that?
So I did an experiment a couple years ago where I took all of the awards, accolades, trophies, marathon ribbons, posters of the film the guy got produced back in 2012, and all of these things that I was so proud of that validated who I was, that validated me. Now, there are two pieces that I work with on specifically, the validation piece and not validating enough. But that's the ego. The ego is like, you're not enough. You're everything. And
yes.
And so I just decided that I was letting my past define me too much. And I just did an experiment. What if I put those all away and only focused on who I'm creating myself to be, on what the future awards that I want, the future accolades? And the reason why I say, especially for women and any of my clients that I've worked with who are in more middle life, I personally don't think 40, 50 is middle life. I think that we are going to be living much longer in the next couple decades, but in that, I'm going to say quarter life.
There you go. I like that. Yeah. I'm always like, I'm going to live forever.
But that age, typically they've experienced some success to a level that they've also experienced some failure. Mm-hmm. And when we put that success up on the pedestal, or when we're at that level of success currently, then there is a fear that comes with going on a pedestal of like, well, what if I have to come down from this? And pedestals, if you think of the metaphor, it's not a very sturdy surface, especially depending upon how high you put it up. Mm-hmm. So I'm all about celebrating your wins. I am all about training your reticular system, activating system in your brain to recognize and celebrate the wins and the improvements and the growth every single day. Mm-hmm. But when we put our success on a pedestal and we think, oh, we're at this certain level, it actually prevents us from doing the exact things that allowed us to get successful in the first place, which typically involve acts of courage and the ability to take risks. Typically, when you're on a pedestal and you've put your success on a pedestal, you're at a stage of comfort. And it's that comfort space where it's like, well, I don't want to lose anything, but I want to gain, but I just want to gain without the fear of like losing. Mm-hmm. And what if you just had your feet on solid ground and just kept moving forward? Yeah. And what I've seen with clients who have put their success on a pedestal and fallen drastically off, then they have an identity crisis. Well, I must be a failure. And I'm like, your bio doesn't say you're a failure. Your bio says you've started like 12 companies. Your bio says that you have done like 4 million in sales. And I said, the problem is that when we put the success on the pedestal, we only feel the failures. Mm-hmm. The truth is in the middle.
Oh my God, I wish that I would have met you before 2020. I know exactly how that feels. I had grown this amazing massage business over 17 years. I had the income I wanted. I had this everything I wanted. I loved it. It was like who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was on a pedestal. Like this is like just this amazing thing that I can do and this gift I have. And then 2020, that pedestal crashed and took me with it. And I had a major identity crisis. I mean, it was huge. I'm just now crawling out of that. All my goals attached to that on that pedestal. And when it fell into a hole and it took me with it. So I wish I would have met you before that, but I'm happy for the people listening that they get to hear this hopefully before that happens to them.
Yes, for sure. And the benefit is that now you recognize it. And so with what you're building now and with what you're creating, you have the wherewithal to be like, oh, am I making this business my identity? Am I making this success my identity?
Yeah.
Because when we attach our identity to success or failure, we are in for a world of hurt both ways. And
totally.
Whereas when you can redefine what success is, what does it really mean to live successfully? Does it mean you get like accolades and awards? Perhaps. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with
for
getting
some people. Yeah, definitely.
But does it mean that you are waking up feeling fulfilled and joyful? Does it mean that you feel like you're contributing to this world and bringing value?
Yeah.
Instead of defining success as something that we have to achieve, what if it is something that we are naturally?
Yeah, because I think we are all naturally successful. I'm take it back to your plagiarized programming. We're taught that we're not, unless we reach a certain level in a certain way. Like it's all about money, right? I talk about success with people all the time, and I know that people instantly go to money.
Yeah.
Success isn't all about money. Success may not have anything to do with money for some people.
I have seen many quote unquote successful people burnt out, divorced, having affairs.
Yes.
Having their children have some serious like mental health issues because they define success by their external environment of money. Whereas what if success is the stillness inside of you, that peace, that ability for you to move gracefully between the dance between work life and home life and feeling the joy of being fully present in the moment. Like in this moment, I feel so successful. Like that's my definition of success is, am I bringing my full presence, my engagement? Am I serving at the level that I desire to be serving at? And if I'm not, I can always check myself. I can always evaluate. But it does come with that constant questioning and curiosity, allowing yourself to have the courage to question, because it does take guts to reevaluate your identity, because our identity is like, we want to hold on to that. It's like your brain naturally, like it's not like woo-woo. It's your brain physically wants to hold on to those neurological pathways that are like connected to those beliefs.
Yes, and it fights back.
And it will fight back. Yes. And if you know how to be okay with it, and one of the ways that I like to do is I like to literally have a conversation with it. Whenever I feel like I'm stepping into a new level, like just last week, I was at a mastermind with, oh my gosh, some brilliant minds. And I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so nervous. And I was like, am I smart? And I had to like have a conversation with myself and be like, whoa, okay, Kim, are you a visionary? Yes. Do you have a big vision for this future and for this world? Yes. Did they approve you? Yes. Did they say you can come into this community? Yes. Did they say you're a fit? Yes. So why you doubting?
Oh wait, so you still have these human emotions. Your brain still fights back.
I'm queen and human. I know.
Yep. Okay, so Queen, I want to know some tips. Someone listening today, how can they start cultivating this type of confidence within themselves?
So first, get curious.
Okay.
Get curious. Look around you. look at your environment. Because the hardest place to change from is the lack of, is unconscious incompetence, meaning lack of awareness, meaning you don't know what you don't know. And so you think you know it all. That's the hardest place to change from. So once you start getting curious, and I'm sure that everyone who's already in your community has already started getting curious about like, what new solutions are there out there? There's got to be better.
Yes.
Like, got to be better. And so look at like, what's in your environment? What do you like? What do you not like? What's making you feel energized? What's making you feel depleted? So for example, I started just examining like my daily habits and behaviors. And my husband and I would regularly like have a glass of wine at night and just have that with dinner. And I started to realize like, I'm feeling like really lethargic in the morning. And I got a baby and a business and a 4-year-old and bike riding and soccer practice and launches. And I'm like, I'm going to try like doing 2 workouts a day and cutting out wine at night. Feel amazing. I'm 10 days in and I'm like, it's epic. But it was because I got curious. I didn't get judgmental of being like, well, why do you feel like you need to give up wine? Why do you feel like, is that a problem? Is it some like, that's the judgmental voice that starts to go off in your head versus like, and oh, you're exercising twice a day. Is that a problem? Like, does that like, no, that's just shitty thinking. Like, so instead getting curious, allowing yourself to just question, like, what is making me feel good? And if you've had past trauma, sometimes we can be so accustomed to living in struggle and suffering that we don't know what makes us feel good. I know I didn't for a while. So what makes you feel not that bad? Like, what makes you feel a little better? Like, maybe it's that bubble bath. Just starting to notice the physiological sensations of like, what are the things that you're eating and fueling your body with, doing with your body? What are the things that you're donating your time to? Are they energizing and uplifting you, or are they exhausting you? You know, as a mother, the baby can be exhausting. And that's why, okay, this is a moment that I need to delegate this lovely screaming child to my husband. And like, this is something that, you know, the co-founder of my children.
Co-founder, I love that.
Being able to just recognize what is it that is feeling good, feeling not good, and getting in tune with that intuition and that curiosity. Because curiosity is the gateway drug to intuition. And so allowing yourself to get curious first. Then start asking different questions. So instead of asking why questions, why does this always happen to me? Why do I feel this way? Like, why is is an okay place to get started? But sometimes if it's focused in the wrong direction, if it's focused in the face of like, why am I an idiot? Why, you know, all like, then it's just your subconscious mind is going to go on a goose chase. That's going to get every example from every moment. That's like, oh, remember that time in 4th grade? Oh, remember when you said that thing in the meeting? Oh, remember that? And then you're like, oh, well, here's all the evidence that backs up that belief. Being able to ask those what and how questions. What could I do differently in my morning to make me feel energized? And the worst thing, the thing that I never allow my clients to answer with is, I don't know. Of course you don't know. You haven't done it. And the second you say, I don't know, you cut off your subconscious mind from finding possibility. So get uncomfortable with sitting in the discomfort of not knowing the answer. Because the thing is about shifting your identity is that you're going to have to be wrong about who you have been and how you have acted and the habits that you've had. And no one likes to be wrong. No one likes to be wrong. We see it all the time on Facebook. Like, everyone has their opinion and everyone is right. Like, no one wants to be wrong. You allow yourself to get comfortable with the possibility of being wrong about who you have been so you can be right about who you're going to be. Then you have the potential for transformation.
Beautiful.
So when you're in that space, allow yourself to be wrong about not having an answer, about not knowing. Of course you don't know. And then get very clear on like, what is it? Allow yourself to sit with, even if the question lingers for 30 minutes, 2 days. What could I do to make me feel energized in the morning? What could I do to make me feel less lethargic? Like, what could I do to boost my energy up? Allow yourself to just continue to ask the question, continue to stay curious, continue to stay in that space. An answer will come that will be different than I don't know, because I don't know is it the ego's like basic, like, no,
shut down, put a wall.
Shut down. Here's your wall.
Yeah.
No go. Versus allowing yourself to be curious, and it will find, your subconscious mind will be like, well, remember that thing that person said, or, oh, remember that book that you read like 2 years ago that you didn't implement any of the things? Well, then you could implement some of that stuff now. So your subconscious mind will remember. It'll make the connections if you allow it to make the connections. Mm-hmm. To give you a real quick example, I had a real estate investor come to me 2 weeks before she was supposed to close on a property. She's like, Kim, I really need some help. She's like, I will, wave a dead cat around my head, sprinkle some, like, I will do whatever you tell me to do. And I said, I think you need to change your language. Because she kept on saying, I don't have an investor. I don't have an investor. If your subconscious mind, let's just say hypothetically, is tied to collective consciousness, which now quantum physics is showing more and more how interconnected we are, then do you believe this deal is a good deal? She's like, yeah, I do. And I said, do you believe that any investor who looked at this would be like, oh, that's a no-brainer? She's like, oh, yeah. I said, so then you do have an investor. You just aren't aware of who they are. And she's like, oh, okay. I do have an investor. And she started changing. And within 2 weeks, she changed her life. She would go to networking events saying, oh, I have a great investor for this property. I'm so excited to meet him. and it's like, oh, what property? Oh, I'm curious. Oh, it's And it changed the game. She had an investor for the property. And that's the power of directing your subconscious mind with questions that allow for curiosity, possibility, and openness. Mm-hmm. And then allowing yourself to go through the bumpy, frumpy changes of making the mistakes and then allowing for the questions. Okay, we made a mistake. This happened. Well, what could I have done differently? How could I have been? Who do I need to be to do it differently? Did I need to be more responsible, more courageous, more disciplined, more flexible? Like who do I really need to be? Maybe do I need to ask for more support? Because you're going to go through that phase of the bumpy, frumpy stage of making mistakes. Then you're going to get to the stage where you start catching yourself before you make the mistake, before you do that old habit, before you do that thing of who you were going to be. And so something that I like to say, especially in regards to changing a habit, mm-hmm. is that habit is who I was in the past. That habit is who I was. That was who I was. Like, I don't say I'm recovered from bulimia. I say I had bulimia because it was something that I had. It's not something that who I was. It was not an identity. And that is a huge difference, is when you can separate your identity from the things that are the habits. People say like, oh, if you have the habit of smoking, well, what if you just started to shift your language, get curious, what's initially triggering, what's emotionally triggering that habit? Mm-hmm. And if smoking is something you want to quit, which I'd highly recommend, but then who you were was a smoker. Mm-hmm. You had but smoking, that is a habit. Disassociating your identity from the habits, behavior, and practices so that you shift into choosing and creating consciously that identity of who you desire to actually become. And who's the person that actually has, does, and is everything that you want to be, do, and have.
Beautiful. All right. And I saw you have a ton of resources on your website. And I'm going to just say it again. It's crownyourself.com, which now we know the origin of. You got lots of resources on there. You have a Facebook community also. So I highly recommend people listening go now and check that out. All the links will be in the show notes. But is there anything else that you want to leave my listeners with today?
Just own your story. Own who you have been, because that's a big piece of it. Yeah. Have compassion, grace, forgiveness for the person you have been, because here's the thing. We are all doing the best that we can with the resources that we have available. And that's why I love podcasts like yours, and I love having my own podcast, The Princess and the Bee, because these are opportunities to expand our resources. Because when you are focusing on choosing content that uplifts and inspires and champions and challenges you to grow, then you are learning new resources that will make you, shift you, and change you into that person that you're wanting to become, so that you have the power of your own choice and to choose who you want to be and not be a default to the plagiarized programming of what you grew up with. You don't have to be. You can have your own story.
Yes, and we do all have a choice. And one last question for you, because you just mentioned resources, and you told me that you used a lot of books in your own personal healing journey. What's one of your favorite self-improvement books?
15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership by the Conscious Leadership Group.
Nice. You had that just like right in your pocket.
It is my go-to favorite, recommended to everyone, send it to their kids. The other series that I highly recommend, which as a mom, I read to my kids, and I really technically it's also for my own subconscious reprogramming, is the What Do You Do series. What do you do with a problem? What do you do with an idea? What do you do with a chance? And it is a fabulous book series that is great. I've recommended it to adults to read to their dogs or to read to your grandkids, because as you start to read it, it will transform how you're perceiving problems, ideas, and giving you the courage to take some greater chances.
Very cool. Kimberly, thank you so much for all of your wisdom, all of your just energy that I'm sure my listeners can feel right now. I feel it. Go out and spread it to the world. And that's what I want everybody to do right now. Spread this love out as soon as you're done listening.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Our stories may be different, but we all have one thing in common. We're all trying to figure out how to navigate life on this planet. And none of us have it completely figured out. No matter what you're going through in your life, just know that you are never really alone. Come back every Wednesday for more inspiration and connection. And follow me on Instagram at the Dragonfly Mama so we can stay in touch between episodes.